The metal twisted like paper. Glass exploded everywhere. Michael Hudson's last memory before darkness was the sound of his Tesla spinning across 3 lanes of Miami highway traffic. The truck that hit him had lost its brakes coming down the overpass. One moment he was talking on his hands-free phone about closing a $50 million deal, the next moment his world ended. 6 weeks in a coma. Machines breathing for him. Tubes feeding him. His mother Carol flew in from Boston and sat by his bed every day, praying to a God she hadn't spoken to in years. When Michael finally opened his eyes, Dr. Rebecca Martinez delivered the news that shattered what remained of his world. "The damage to your spinal cord is extensive," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "You'll need to learn to live differently now." Differently. Such a small word for such a massive change. Michael Hudson, who had built 3 companies before age 35, who had never met a challenge he couldn't conquer, would never walk again. The first caregiver lasted 2 days. Michael threw his water bottle at her when she tried to help him transfer from bed to wheelchair. The second one quit after he screamed at her for touching his legs during physical therapy. The third, fourth, and fifth didn't last much longer. "I don't need anyone," he told Dr. Martinez during a follow-up appointment. "I can take care of myself." "Michael, you're not even trying to get better. You've gained weight, your muscle tone is deteriorating, and you haven't left your penthouse in 3 months. This isn't living." But Michael didn't want to live. Not like this. Not trapped in a chair, dependent on others, pitted by everyone who had once looked up to him. His business partner James tried to visit, but Michael had the doorman turn him away. His mother called daily, but he let it go to voicemail. The penthouse that had once been his pride became his prison. 60 floors above Miami, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the world he could no longer fully participate in. He ordered groceries online, worked from his computer when he had to, and spent most days in bed feeling sorry for himself. "You need to accept help," Dr. Martinez said during their last appointment. "I'm sending someone new tomorrow. Her name is Nia Johnson, and she specializes in difficult cases." "I don't want anyone new. I want to be left alone." "That's not an option anymore, Michael. Either you work with Nia, or I'll have to recommend an assisted living facility." That night, Michael sat in his wheelchair on the balcony, looking down at the city lights below. Everything looked so small from up here. Cars moved like ants, people walked like tiny dots. He used to feel powerful up here, like he could see everything and control it all. Now he just felt distant, disconnected from the life happening below. He wheeled back inside and made himself a promise. Whatever caregiver showed up tomorrow would quit just like all the others. He didn't need anyone's help, and he would prove it by making this Nia Johnson's job so miserable she'd be gone by lunch. Michael transferred himself to bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be no different than today. He would make sure of that. The next morning he positioned himself strategically in the living room, ready for battle. He had prepared his coldest voice, his cruelest words. He would tell this new woman exactly what he thought of people who made their living off other people's misery. He would make it clear that her services were neither wanted nor needed. When the elevator chimed at 9 a.m. sharp, Michael straightened in his chair and prepared to destroy another caregiver's day. The door opened, and a beautiful African-American woman stepped out, carrying a small bag and wearing scrubs with bright purple flowers. She was younger than he expected, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes and a smile that seemed genuine. "Good morning, Mr. Hudson. I'm Nia Johnson, and I'm here to help you get your life back." Michael gripped the wheels of his chair and glared at her. "Let me make something very clear. I don't want help, I don't need help, and I certainly don't want you here. So you can turn around, get back in that elevator, and tell Dr. Martinez to stop wasting everyone's time." Nia set her bag down and looked around the penthouse. "This is a beautiful place. The view must be amazing. But it feels lonely up here, doesn't it?" "I said I want you to leave." "I heard you." She walked over to the kitchen and started opening cabinets. "When did you last eat a real meal? Something that didn't come from a delivery box. Don't touch my things. Dr. Martinez told me you haven't been doing your physical therapy. That's dangerous, Mr. Hudson. Your muscles need movement or they'll get worse." Michael wheeled closer, his voice rising. "Don't touch me. Don't touch anything in this apartment. Don't speak to me unless I speak to you first. And definitely don't tell me what I need." But Nia Johnson just smiled and started making breakfast. Nia moved through Michael's kitchen like she belonged there. She found eggs in the refrigerator, bread that was only slightly stale, and some fruit that looked like it had been there for weeks. She threw away the bad stuff and started cooking. "I told you to leave," Michael said, wheeling closer to the kitchen island. "I heard you." She cracked eggs into a pan. But I don't work for you. I work for Dr. Martinez and she hired me to help you recover. So that's what I'm going to do. Michael had never met anyone who ignored him so completely. In his business world, when Michael Hudson spoke, people listened. When he gave orders, they were followed immediately. But this woman acted like he was just making noise. Do you know who I am? He asked. You're Michael Hudson. You used to run 3 tech companies. You had a car accident that injured your spine. Now you spend all day feeling sorry for yourself instead of working to get better. She flipped the eggs with casual skill. Did I miss anything important? The directness hit him like a slap. You have no right to speak to me that way. I have every right. It's my job to tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it. She plated the eggs and toast, then brought the plate to where he sat. Eat. I'm not hungry. When did you last eat? And don't say last night because there's nothing in your trash can except takeout containers from 3 days ago. Michael stared at her. How could she know that? I don't have to answer your questions. No, you don't. But your body needs fuel to heal, and right now you're running on empty. She set the plate on the table next to him. These eggs have protein. The toast has carbs for energy. It's not fancy, but it's food. I told you not to touch me. I haven't touched you yet. She pulled a folder from her bag. But I will need to touch you for the physical therapy. That's how this works. Michael felt panic rise in his chest. Since the accident, he couldn't bear the thought of anyone touching his legs, his back, any part of him that no longer worked properly. The few times doctors had examined him, he'd felt sick with embarrassment and rage. I'm not doing physical therapy. Yes, you are. Nia sat down across from him, her voice calm but firm. Because if you don't, your muscles will continue to weaken. You'll lose more function, not gain it. Your back will develop problems from sitting incorrectly. Your circulation will get worse. Your overall health will decline until you end up back in the hospital. Maybe that's what I want. No, it's not. She leaned forward slightly. If that's what you wanted, you wouldn't fight so hard to push people away. You'd just let yourself fade. But you don't want to fade, Mr. Hudson. You want to be angry because anger feels more powerful than sadness. The words cut deep because they were true. Michael had been angry for months, using rage as armor against the grief of losing his old life. But he wasn't ready to admit that to this stranger. You think you understand me? I understand pain, Nia said simply. I've seen a lot of people struggle with life changes they never asked for. Some of them fight to get better. Some of them give up. But the ones who get better all have one thing in common. What's that? They let people help them. Have you ever wondered what it takes to rebuild a life from scratch? What drives someone to keep helping when all they receive is anger in return? Let me know in the comments what you think will happen next, and please subscribe so you don't miss the incredible journey these two are about to take together. Michael looked at the eggs on the plate. They smelled good, and his stomach made a quiet rumbling sound. When had he last eaten a real meal? He couldn't remember. If I eat this, will you leave? No. But I'll start with gentle exercises instead of the harder ones. He picked up the fork. The eggs were perfectly cooked, soft but not runny. The toast was golden brown. It was simple food, but it tasted better than anything he'd eaten in weeks. Why do you do this job? He asked between bites. Because everyone deserves a chance to get better. No matter how difficult they make it. She opened the folder and spread out some papers. These are exercises designed specifically for your type of injury. We'll start slowly. I don't want to. I know. But we're going to do them anyway. She stood up and moved toward his chair. Dr. Martinez says you haven't been out of this apartment in 3 months. That's going to change too. Don't touch me, Michael said, but his voice had less bite than before. I have to touch you to help you. That's part of the job. Nia moved behind his wheelchair. I'm going to check your posture first. Just sitting up straight makes a difference in how you feel. Her hands were gentle when they touched his shoulders, adjusting the way he sat in the chair. Michael tensed up, hating that someone else had to position his body for him. But her touch was professional, not pitying. She moved his shoulders back, straightened his spine, and suddenly breathing felt easier. Better? He didn't want to admit it, but yes. It was better. I suppose. Good. Now we're going to work on your arms and upper body. These muscles can get stronger even if your legs can't move the same way. She pulled out some small weights. We'll start with these. For the next hour, Nia guided him through simple exercises. She explained each movement, told him why it mattered, and never acted like he was fragile or broken. When he complained that something was too hard, she made it easier. When he said he couldn't do more, she encouraged him to try just one more repetition. By the end, Michael was tired but not exhausted. His arms felt like they had actually done something useful. For the first time in months, his body felt like it belonged to him again, even just a little bit. "Same time tomorrow," Nia said, packing up her things. "What if I don't let you in? Then I'll wait in the hallway until you change your mind." "I'm very patient, Mr. Hudson." She gathered her bag and headed for the elevator. At the last moment she turned back. "Thank you for eating breakfast. That was a good start." After she left, Michael sat in his wheelchair and looked around the penthouse. For the first time in months, it didn't feel quite so much like a prison. The next morning, Michael waited by the elevator. He told himself he was there to send Nia away the moment she arrived, but deep down he knew better. He had slept better last night than he had in weeks, and his arms felt pleasantly sore from the exercises. When the elevator doors opened at 9 a.m., Nia stepped out carrying a larger bag than yesterday. "Good morning, Mr. Hudson. How are you feeling?" "Sore." "Good sore or bad sore?" He considered lying, but something about her direct way of asking made dishonesty seem pointless. "Good sore, I think." "Perfect. That means the exercises worked." She set her bag down and looked around. "Today we're going to try something different. More torture. Fresh air." She walked over to the balcony doors. "When did you last go outside?" Michael couldn't remember. "I go out on the balcony." "That's not the same thing. You need sunlight, fresh air, different scenery. Your brain needs new inputs to stay healthy." "I'm not going anywhere." Nia opened the balcony doors anyway, and a warm Miami breeze flowed through the apartment. Michael had forgotten how good fresh air could smell. The recycled air conditioning had become so normal he didn't notice it anymore. "Just the balcony today," she said. "But real outside, not through glass." "What's the difference?" "Everything." She moved behind his chair. "May I help you get out there?" The word "may" surprised him. None of the other caregivers had asked permission for anything. They had just assumed they could do whatever they thought was best. "I can get there myself." "I know you can. But it's easier with help, and there's no shame in making things easier." Michael wheeled toward the balcony, and Nia walked beside him without hovering. The threshold was slightly raised and his chair caught on it briefly. Before he could get frustrated, Nia was there, lifting the front wheels just enough to clear the bump. Outside, the morning air was warm but not hot yet. The city spread out below them, alive with movement and sound. Michael had forgotten how good it felt to hear traffic, sirens, people living their lives. "Better?" Nia asked. "Different." He breathed deeply. "I didn't realize how stuffy it was inside. Stale air makes everything feel stale. Your body, your thoughts, your mood." She pulled a chair from inside and sat down next to him. "What did you used to do for fun? Before the accident?" "Work." "That's not fun, that's obligation." "What did you do when you weren't working?" Michael tried to remember. His life before the accident felt like someone else's story now. "I traveled. Went to restaurants. Attended events." "Did you enjoy those things?" "I thought I did." He was quiet for a moment. "Maybe I just thought I was supposed to enjoy them." "What would you enjoy now?" The question caught him off guard. He hadn't thought about enjoyment in months. Survival, anger, isolation, those he understood. But enjoyment felt like something from his old life, something he wasn't allowed to want anymore. "I don't know." "That's okay. We have time to figure it out." Nia opened her bag and pulled out a tablet. "Today I want to show you some videos. Other people who had similar injuries and what they accomplished. I don't want to see inspiring stories about people overcoming disabilities. These aren't inspiration stories. They're education. Learning what's possible." She handed him the tablet. "This man had the same type of spinal injury you have. He's a programmer now, works from home, travels with his wife." Michael looked at the screen reluctantly. The man in the video looked normal, happy even. He was explaining how he had modified his workspace, how he had learned to drive again with hand controls, how he had met his wife at a support group. "He looks..." Michael struggled for the word. "Content." "I was going to say normal." "He is normal. Just different from before." Nia scrolled to another video. "This woman races wheelchairs competitively. She holds 3 world records." The woman on screen was incredible. Strong, confident, talking about her training routine and her goals for the next Olympics. She didn't look like someone who needed pity or special treatment. She looked like an athlete. How? The same way anyone gets good at anything. Practice, determination, and the right support system. Nia paused the video. "Your injury doesn't have to be the end of your story, Mr. Hudson. It can be the beginning of a different chapter. You make it sound easy." It's not easy, but it's possible. She closed the tablet. Ready for some exercises? This time Michael didn't argue. They worked on arm strength, core stability, and balance. Nia explained how each exercise would help him in daily life, how stronger arms would make transfers easier, how better balance would give him more confidence. Why do you know so much about this? He asked during a break. I've been doing this work for 5 years. I've seen a lot of people get better. No, I mean, why do you care? You could do other kinds of nursing, easier jobs. Why choose to work with people like me? Nia was quiet for a moment. Because everyone deserves a chance to rebuild their life. No matter how broken they think they are. There was something in her voice, a deeper story she wasn't telling. But Michael didn't push. He was starting to understand that Nia would share what she wanted to share when she was ready. They finished the exercises and Nia packed her things. Before she left, she opened all the blinds in the apartment and left the balcony doors open. Fresh air and sunlight, she said. Let them in. That afternoon, Michael found himself staying on the balcony longer than usual. The sounds of the city didn't annoy him as much as they used to. A plane flew overhead, probably carrying people to places he used to visit. But instead of feeling sorry for himself, he found himself wondering what those places would be like to visit differently than before. When evening came, he didn't immediately close the balcony doors. The night air felt good, and the city lights looked beautiful instead of distant. For the first time since the accident, Michael fell asleep thinking about tomorrow instead of mourning yesterday. By the end of the first week, Michael had developed a routine. He woke up earlier, showered and dressed before Nia arrived, and even attempted to make breakfast sometimes. The exercises were becoming familiar, and he found himself looking forward to the challenge of getting stronger. You're sitting up straighter, Nia observed as she helped him with resistance band exercises. Am I? Much straighter. Your posture affects everything else. How you feel, how you breathe, how people see you. How do people see me now? Nia considered the question carefully. Like someone who's getting his confidence back. Michael wasn't sure he believed that, but he liked hearing it. They had moved beyond simple arm exercises to more complex movements that required coordination and balance. Each day brought something new, something slightly harder than the day before. Tell me about your businesses, Nia said during a break. What did you build? Software mostly. Apps that help companies manage data better. Michael found himself talking more easily now. Started with one simple program and grew from there. Do you miss it? I miss creating things. I miss having problems to solve. He paused. I don't miss the stress. Could you create things differently now? What do you mean? I mean, did your businesses have to require so much travel and stress? Or was that just how you chose to run them? Michael had never thought about it that way. He had always assumed business meant constant meetings, travel, high-pressure situations. But maybe that was just one way to do business. I always thought success had to look a certain way. Maybe it can look different ways for different people. Nia handed him a heavier resistance band. What would success look like now if you could design it yourself? The question stayed with him throughout the exercises. What would success look like now? He used to measure it in money, in deals closed, in companies acquired. But those metrics felt less important somehow. I've been thinking about your question, he said near the end of their session. Which one? About what success would look like now. He set down the weights they had been using. I think it would look like feeling useful again. Like I could contribute something valuable to the world. You already do that. How? You employ people. Your companies create jobs, solve problems for other businesses. That hasn't changed. But I'm not really running them anymore. My partners are handling everything. Because you told them to. Not because you can't. Nia packed the exercise equipment. Have you talked to them since the accident? Michael looked away. I didn't want their pity. What if it's not pity? What if they just miss working with you? The idea that his business partners missed him professionally, not just personally, hadn't occurred to Michael. He had assumed the accident made him useless to them, a burden rather than an asset. James called yesterday, he admitted. I didn't answer. Why not? Because I don't know what to say to him. I'm not the same person he used to work with. No, you're not. But that doesn't mean you can't still be valuable to him. Nia sat down across from him. What if being different made you better at some things? Like what? Like thinking more carefully about decisions. Like understanding what really matters. Like appreciating the people who stick around when things get difficult. Michael had never thought about his injury giving him advantages. The idea seemed impossible at first, but as he considered it, he could see some truth in what Nia was saying. He did think more carefully now. He did appreciate simple things more than he used to. Maybe I could call him back. Maybe you could. Nia gathered her things and headed for the elevator. See you tomorrow, Mr. Hudson. Nia? She turned back. Yes. Thank you. For not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. That evening, Michael sat on his balcony with his phone in his lap. James's number was on the screen, ready to call. All he had to do was press the button. But what would he say? How do you explain 3 months of silence? How do you admit you were drowning in self-pity while your business partners kept everything running? The phone rang before he could decide. James's name appeared on the screen. Michael hesitated for just a moment, then answered. Hello, James. Michael? Jesus, man, I've been trying to reach you for months. How are you? Michael paused, thinking about how to answer honestly. I'm getting better. Slowly. That's good to hear. Really good. Listen, I know you've been dealing with a lot, but I wanted to talk to you about the Patterson account. We've got a proposal due next week, and honestly, we could use your input. You want my input? Of course I want your input. You designed half the systems they're asking for. Nobody knows that software better than you do. The conversation lasted an hour. They talked about technical specifications, client needs, implementation timelines. Michael found his mind engaging with the problems in ways it hadn't for months. By the end of the call, he had agreed to review the proposal and make suggestions. When he hung up, Michael realized he felt energized for the first time since the accident. Not exhausted, not overwhelmed, but actually excited about solving problems again. Maybe Nia was right. Maybe being different didn't have to mean being less than he was before. Maybe it could mean being something new entirely. 3 weeks into their routine, Michael noticed things about Nia that went beyond her professional skills. She always arrived exactly on time but sometimes looked tired, like she had been up late. She carried 2 phones and would occasionally step outside to take calls that seemed important and stressful. Most telling, she never ate the lunch she brought with her. Aren't you hungry? He asked one day when she unwrapped a sandwich but left it sitting untouched. I'll eat later. You said that yesterday too. Nia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm fine, Mr. Hudson. Let's focus on your exercises. But Michael was learning to read her expressions, and something was clearly wrong. Over the past weeks, she had become more than just his caregiver. She had become the bright spot in his days, the person who made him believe recovery was possible. Now he wanted to return some of that care. What's going on? He asked gently. Nothing that you need to worry about. Maybe I want to worry about it. The words surprised both of them. For months, Michael had been focused entirely on his own problems. The idea that he might have emotional energy left over to care about someone else's troubles felt new and strange. Nia sat down slowly, the sandwich still untouched in her hands. I have a nephew, she said finally. Tommy. He's 8 years old, and he's been living with me since his parents died in a car accident 2 years ago. Michael felt his chest tighten. I'm sorry. Tommy has a heart condition. He needs surgery, but it's expensive, and even with insurance. She trailed off, staring at the sandwich. I've been working extra shifts, saving everything I can, but it's still not enough. What kind of surgery? A valve replacement. The doctors say he can't wait much longer. Her voice was steady, but Michael could hear the fear underneath. I've been trying to get approval for additional financial assistance, but the process is slow, and Tommy doesn't have slow. Michael understood now why she never ate her lunch, why she looked tired, why she took stressed phone calls. She was working multiple jobs, saving every penny, probably not eating enough herself to stretch her budget further. How much do you need? Mr. Hudson, I'm not telling you this because I want money. I'm telling you because you asked and because... She paused. Because over these weeks, you've become more than just a client to me. You've become someone I care about. The admission hit Michael harder than he expected. When had someone last cared about him as a person rather than for his wealth or status? When had he last cared about someone else's problems more than his own? How much? He asked again. $40,000. But I'm not asking. I want to help. I can't take your money. Why not? Because it's not right. You're my client and I'm supposed to be helping you, not the other way around. Michael wheeled closer to where she sat. For 3 weeks, you've been telling me that accepting help isn't a sign of weakness. That everyone deserves a chance to get better. That people who care about each other support each other. That's different. How? Nia was quiet for a long moment. Because I'm supposed to be strong enough to handle this myself. And I'm supposed to be strong enough to walk. Michael's voice was gentle but firm. But sometimes we need help with things we can't do alone. You taught me that. I don't know how I would ever pay you back. You've already paid me back. You gave me my life back. Michael reached for her hand. Let me give Tommy his. Tears gathered in Nia's eyes. Mr. Hudson. Michael. And please let me do this. Not because I feel sorry for you, but because you matter to me. Because Tommy matters to you, which means he matters to me too. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Say you'll let someone who cares about you help solve a problem you can't solve alone. Nia looked down at their joined hands. Michael's were steady and warm, no longer shaking with rage or clenched in frustration. They were the hands of someone who had learned to receive kindness and wanted to give it back. Yes, she whispered. Yes, and thank you. Thank you so much. That afternoon, Michael made phone calls to his banker and his lawyer. By evening, the money was transferred to the hospital, and Tommy's surgery was scheduled for the following week. When he called Nia to tell her, she cried so hard she couldn't speak. He's going to be okay, Michael said gently. And so are you. I don't understand why you're doing this. Because 3 weeks ago you walked into my apartment and refused to let me give up on myself. Now I'm refusing to let you give up on Tommy. That night, Michael sat on his balcony and thought about how different his life had become. 3 weeks ago, he had been consumed with his own pain, convinced that nothing good could ever happen to him again. Tonight, he had been able to solve someone else's problem, to make a real difference in the life of a child he had never met. For the first time since his accident, Michael felt like the person he used to be. Not the businessman, not the millionaire, but the man who believed he could make the world a little bit better for the people he cared about. The week of Tommy's surgery, Michael barely saw Nia. She took time off to be at the hospital, sending updates by text but focusing entirely on her nephew. Michael found himself missing their daily sessions more than he expected, not just for the physical therapy but for her presence, her voice, her way of making everything seem possible. James stopped by the apartment with proposal documents, and they spent the afternoon working through technical problems together. It felt good to be useful again, to contribute something valuable to the business he had built. You seem different, James observed as they wrapped up. Better. I have a good physical therapist. It's more than that. You seem like yourself again, but maybe a better version. Michael considered that. Maybe going through something hard changes you, but not always for the worse. Maybe it does. James gathered the papers. The team misses you, by the way. They ask about you all the time. I miss them too. You could come to the office sometime. We've made everything accessible. Ramps, wider doorways, adjustable desks. The idea of going back to the office both excited and terrified Michael. He had been imagining his old workplace as a monument to everything he had lost. But maybe it could be something different now. Maybe soon, he said. On Thursday, Nia texted that Tommy's surgery had gone perfectly. The new valve was working beautifully, and the doctors expected a full recovery. Michael found himself grinning at his phone like he had received the best news of his life. When Nia returned to work the following Monday, she looked different. The exhaustion and worry that had been weighing on her were gone, replaced by a lightness Michael had never seen before. How is he? Michael asked the moment she stepped off the elevator. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Nia's smile was radiant. His color is better, his energy is up, and the doctors say he'll be able to play soccer again in a few months. That's wonderful. Michael, I can never thank you enough for what you did. You saved his life. You saved mine first. They looked at each other for a moment and something shifted between them. The relationship that had started as caregiver and patient had become something deeper, something neither of them had expected. Should we do some exercises? Nia asked, but her voice was softer than usual. Actually, I have something to show you first. Michael led her to his home office, where he had been working on a new project. His computer screen showed design mock-ups for a mobile app. What is this? Software for people with mobility challenges. Apps that help them find accessible restaurants, navigate public spaces, connect with others who have similar experiences. Michael's voice grew excited as he explained. I've been working on it with James. We think there's a real need for this kind of technology. Nia studied the screen. This is incredible. When did you start working on this? Last week while you were at the hospital. I kept thinking about those videos you showed me about people rebuilding their lives after injuries. I wanted to build something that could help. You did this for other people like you? I did this because you taught me that having a different life doesn't mean having a worse life. Maybe I can help other people learn that too. Nia turned to look at him, and Michael saw something new in her eyes. Not just professional respect or friendly care, but something warmer and more personal. "You're amazing," she said quietly. "I'm getting there." They spent the morning working through his app designs instead of doing exercises. Nia had insights about what features would be most useful, stories about other clients who could benefit from this kind of technology. Michael found himself energized by her enthusiasm, inspired by her knowledge. "You should be part of this project," he said suddenly. "What do you mean?" "I mean as a consultant. Your expertise about what people actually need, what works and what doesn't. This app won't succeed unless it's designed by people who really understand the challenges." "Michael, I'm not a software designer." "No, but you're something more valuable. You're someone who knows how to help people get better." He turned his chair to face her fully. "I don't want to just build an app. I want to build something that actually changes lives the way you changed mine. I would love to be part of that." They spent the rest of the morning brainstorming features, mapping out user experiences, dreaming about how the technology could make real differences in people's lives. Michael hadn't felt this excited about a project in years, and he could see that Nia felt the same way. When lunchtime came, they ordered food from a nearby restaurant and ate together on the balcony. The conversation flowed easily from work to personal stories, from dreams for the future to memories from the past. "Tell me about before you became a physical therapist," Michael said. "I wanted to be a teacher originally. Elementary school." Nia smiled at the memory. "I love working with kids, watching them learn and grow." "What changed your mind?" "My grandmother had a stroke when I was in college. I spent a lot of time with her during her recovery, watching the physical therapists help her relearn basic movements. I realized I wanted to be the person who helps people get their independence back. Like you helped me. Like you helped yourself. I just provided some guidance." They were sitting closer together than they ever had before, their conversation more personal than it had ever been. Michael found himself noticing details about Nia that had nothing to do with her professional skills. The way she laughed when something genuinely amused her. The way she listened with complete attention when he spoke. The way she made him feel like the most interesting person in the world. "Nia?" "Yes. I'm glad Dr. Martinez sent you to me. Even though you tried to fire me every day for the first week? Especially because you didn't let me." They smiled at each other, and Michael felt something he hadn't experienced since before his accident. Not just happiness but hope. Not just for his recovery but for something new and unexpected growing between them. Over the next few weeks, Michael's life took on a rhythm he had never experienced before. Mornings with Nia working on exercises and the app project. Afternoons collaborating with James and the team on business projects. Evenings on the balcony, often with Nia staying past her scheduled hours to continue their conversations. "You know you don't have to stay," Michael said one evening as they watched the sunset from his balcony. "I know." Nia was sitting in the chair next to his wheelchair, close enough that their arms almost touched. "I like being here. Even when I'm not paying you to be here? Especially then." The comment hung in the air between them, full of meaning neither of them had spoken aloud yet. Their relationship had evolved far beyond caregiver and patient, but they had been dancing around the obvious feelings growing between them. "Nia? What we're doing here, spending time together outside of therapy sessions. What would you call it?" She was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. "I'd call it two people who care about each other choosing to spend time together." "Is that allowed?" "You mean professionally?" "I mean in every way that matters." Nia turned to look at him directly. "Michael, when I took this job, I never expected to feel this way about a client." "What way?" "Like I look forward to seeing you every day. Like I think about you when I'm not here. Like you've become one of the most important people in my life." Michael felt his heart speed up. "I think about you all the time too." "Good, because I was starting to worry it was just me." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both processing the admission they had just made. "So what happens now?" Michael asked. "I don't know. I've never been in this situation before." "Neither have I." Michael reached for her hand. "But I know how I feel about you and I think you feel the same way about me." "I do." "Then maybe we figure it out as we go." Have you ever watched two people discover they're falling in love? There's something magical about that moment when friendship transforms into something deeper. What do you think will happen to Michael and Nia next? Let me know in the comments and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss how this beautiful love story unfolds. That night they had their first real date. Michael ordered dinner from his favorite restaurant, and they ate by candlelight on the balcony. They talked about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears about the future. "I never thought I'd be able to have a normal relationship again," Michael admitted. I thought my injury made me less than what I was before. You're not less than anything. You're just different. Different in a way that matters, though. I can't do things the same way other people do them. So, I can't do things the same way other people do them either. What do you mean? I mean everyone is different, Michael. Everyone has limitations, challenges, things they wish they could change about themselves. Nia leaned closer to him. What makes a relationship work isn't being perfect. It's being perfect for each other. Are we perfect for each other? I think we might be. When she leaned over to kiss him, it was gentle and sweet and full of promise. Michael felt like his world was expanding instead of contracting, like his life was beginning again instead of ending. The next few weeks passed in a blur of happiness. They worked on the app project together during the day, with Nia officially joining as a consultant. They had dinner together most evenings, sometimes at his apartment, sometimes at restaurants that were accessible for his wheelchair. Michael met Tommy when he was released from the hospital. The 8-year-old boy was energetic and curious, asking dozens of questions about Michael's wheelchair and showing off his surgical scar with pride. "Are you going to marry Aunt Nia?" Tommy asked during one visit, with the direct honesty only children possess. "Tommy," Nia said, blushing. "Would you like me to?" Michael asked seriously. "Yeah, because then you'd be my uncle and you have a really cool apartment." Michael and Nia laughed, but later that evening the question came up again. "Would you want to marry me?" Michael asked. "Someday, I mean. Are you asking?" "I'm asking if you'd want me to ask." "Yes," Nia said simply. "Yes, I would want you to ask, and yes, I would say yes." They were sitting on the balcony, and the city lights sparkled below them like stars. Michael thought about how much his life had changed since that first morning when Nia walked off the elevator and refused to leave. He had thought his story was over, but it had really just been beginning. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." And for the first time since his accident, Michael felt like the luckiest man in the world. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. Michael woke up one Tuesday morning to find 17 missed calls from Nia on his phone. When he called back, she answered on the first ring, her voice thick with tears. "Tommy collapsed at school yesterday. They rushed him to the hospital." Michael's blood went cold. "What happened?" "They think there might be complications from the surgery. Or maybe an infection. The doctors are running tests, but..." Her voice broke. "Michael, what if the surgery didn't work? What if I made the wrong decision? I'm coming to the hospital." "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do." Michael dressed quickly and called for his accessible van service. He had been to the hospital several times for his own appointments, but this time felt completely different. This time he was going to support someone else through their crisis. He found Nia in the pediatric ICU waiting room, looking smaller and more frightened than he had ever seen her. When she saw him, she broke down completely. "I'm so scared," she whispered against his shoulder. "He's going to be okay." "You don't know that." "No, but I know he's strong and I know he has the best possible person taking care of him." They spent the next 18 hours in the hospital. Michael called his business contacts to find the best pediatric cardiac specialists in the country. He arranged for consultations, second opinions, and access to experimental treatments if needed. "You don't have to do all this," Nia said as he made another phone call. "Yes, I do. Tommy is part of your family, which makes him part of mine." The tests revealed that Tommy had developed a minor infection near the surgical site. It was treatable with antibiotics, not life-threatening, but it would require another week in the hospital and careful monitoring. "He's going to be fine," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "This kind of infection isn't uncommon after cardiac surgery. We caught it early and he should make a full recovery." Nia cried with relief, and Michael held her as the stress of the past day finally released. But as the immediate crisis passed, something else emerged. During the long hours in the waiting room, Michael had watched Nia interact with the medical staff, had seen her advocacy for Tommy, had witnessed her strength and determination under pressure. And he had realized something that changed everything. "I want to do more," he told her that evening as they sat beside Tommy's sleeping form. "More what?" "More to help. Not just Tommy but other kids like him. Other families going through what you went through." "What do you mean?" "I mean I want to start a foundation. For children who need cardiac surgery but can't afford it. I want to make sure no kid has to wait for help because their family doesn't have money." Nia stared at him. "That would be... Michael, that would be incredible. Will you help me run it?" "What?" "I know how to manage money and set up organizations. But you know how to connect with families, how to understand what they really need. We could do this together." Yes. Yes, of course." They spent the next week planning while Tommy recovered. The Hudson Foundation for Pediatric Cardiac Care would provide grants for surgery, support for families during treatment, and funding for research into new treatments. But as they worked together on the foundation plans, Michael noticed something troubling. Nia was withdrawing from him emotionally, becoming more professional and distant. "What's wrong?" he asked one afternoon when she had barely spoken during their planning session. "Nothing's wrong. Something is. You've been different since Tommy's crisis." Nia set down the documents they had been reviewing. "Michael, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. Are you doing all this, the foundation, the money for Tommy's surgery, all of it, because you feel sorry for me?" The question hit him like a physical blow. "What? I need to know if this is charity. If you're with me because you want to save me, not because you actually love me." "Nia, how can you ask that?" "Because I've seen wealthy men do this before. They find someone they think needs rescuing and they confuse that feeling with love." Michael felt anger and hurt rising in his chest. "That's not what this is. Isn't it? You met me when I was struggling to pay for my nephew's surgery. You solved my biggest problem with money. Now you want to solve everyone else's problems with money too. I want to help because I care. About you, about Tommy, about other families. But would you care about me if I didn't need help? If I were just a regular woman with a regular life and no dramatic problems to solve?" The question hung in the air between them, and Michael realized with horror that he didn't have an immediate answer. Not because he didn't love her, but because he had never thought about their relationship that way. "I don't know how to answer that," he said finally. "Because you're not just a regular woman with a regular life. You're Nia, and you're complicated and strong and caring, and yes, part of what I love about you is how much you care about other people." "That's not an answer." "Then what do you want me to say?" "I want you to be sure that you love me, not just the idea of being my hero." That night, Nia went home to her own apartment for the first time in weeks. Michael sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the foundation documents they had been working on together, wondering if everything he thought he knew about their relationship was wrong. Had he confused love with charity? Was he trying to buy her affection with grand gestures? Or was he genuinely in love with a woman who had changed his life in ways that had nothing to do with money? He didn't have answers, but he knew he had to find them. Because losing Nia would be worse than losing his ability to walk. And if she was right about his motives, then he didn't deserve her anyway. Michael didn't sleep that night. He sat on his balcony, going over every moment of his relationship with Nia, trying to understand if her accusations were true. Was he trying to buy her love? Was this all just an elaborate rescue fantasy? The next morning he called James. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be brutally honest." "Okay. Do you think I'm using money to try to control my relationship with Nia?" James was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you asking?" "She thinks I'm with her because I want to save her, not because I actually love her." "And what do you think?" "I think I love her. But I also think maybe she's not completely wrong." "Michael, you've been trying to solve problems with money your whole life. It's what you're good at. But relationships aren't problems to be solved. So you think she's right?" "I think you need to figure out what you would do if she didn't have any problems for you to solve. If she was completely fine on her own, would you still want to be with her?" Michael spent the day thinking about that question. He thought about their conversations, their shared laughter, the way she made him feel hopeful about the future. He thought about how she challenged him, supported him, and saw potential in him when he couldn't see it himself. By evening he had his answer. He called Nia. "Can you come over? We need to talk." "Michael, I don't think." "Please. Just let me say something, and then if you want to leave, I'll understand." She arrived an hour later looking tired and sad. They sat in his living room and Michael spoke carefully, choosing each word. "You asked me if I would love you if you didn't need help. The answer is yes, but not for the reason you might think." "What do you mean?" "I mean I love you because of who you are, not because of what you need. You're kind without being naive. You're strong without being hard. You see the best in people, including me, especially when I couldn't see it myself." "Michael, let me finish. You're right that I try to solve problems with money. It's what I've always done. But the problems I want to solve for you aren't about making you dependent on me. They're about clearing away the obstacles so you can be fully yourself." "I don't understand." "I mean when you were worried about Tommy's surgery, you couldn't focus on anything else. When that stress was gone, I got to see more of who you really are. Helping with Tommy wasn't about controlling you. It was about freeing you to be the amazing person I fell in love with." Nia was quiet, processing his words. "And the foundation?" she asked. The foundation is something I want to do because you taught me to care about other people's problems, not just my own. Yes, I want to do it with you, but not because I think you need me to give your life meaning. Because I think together we could do something neither of us could do alone. You really mean that? I really mean that. Michael moved his wheelchair closer to her. Nia, I was dead inside before I met you. Not because of my injury, but because I had forgotten how to care about anything except myself. You brought me back to life, not by needing me, but by showing me what it means to live for something bigger than yourself. Tears gathered in Nia's eyes. I'm sorry I doubted you. Don't be sorry. You were protecting yourself and you were asking the right questions. Michael reached for her hands. I would rather have you challenge me and make sure this is real than just accept everything I say. I love you too, she whispered. I love you for who you are, not for what you can give me. Even when I'm stubborn and overthink everything? Especially then. They held each other for a long time, both relieved that they had worked through the crisis instead of letting it tear them apart. So what happens now? Nia asked. Now we do what we planned. We start the foundation together as partners. We help other families like yours. And we build a life together. A life together? Michael smiled. I had a whole romantic proposal planned for next week, but since we're being completely honest with each other, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small jewelry box. Nia Johnson, will you marry me? Not because I want to save you, but because I want to build a life with you. Because you make me better than I am alone. Because I love you. Yes, she said through tears. Yes, of course, yes. The ring was simple and beautiful, exactly what she would have chosen for herself. As Michael slipped it onto her finger, Nia realized that he really did know her, had been paying attention to who she was beyond her problems and needs. I love you, she said. I love you too. They sat together on the balcony as the sun set over Miami, planning their future. The foundation would launch in 6 months. Their wedding would be small and simple, focused on their families and closest friends. Tommy would be the ring bearer, fully recovered and excited about gaining a new uncle. For the first time since his accident, Michael's future looked brighter than his past. Not because his injury was gone, but because he had learned to build a life that made room for both struggle and joy, both limitation and possibility. 6 months later, Michael stood at the altar of a small chapel in Coral Gables, watching Nia walk down the aisle. She was radiant in a simple white dress, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers. Tommy walked beside her in a tiny tuxedo, grinning widely and taking his ring-bearer duties very seriously. Michael had worked with a physical therapist to develop the strength and balance to stand briefly during the ceremony, supported by specially designed braces and rails. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It was about meeting his bride on his feet for the most important moment of his life. The ceremony was small but perfect. James served as best man, Dr. Martinez attended with tears in her eyes, and Carol had flown down from Boston with her new boyfriend, a retired teacher who made her laugh more than she had in years. Do you, Michael Hudson, take Nia Johnson to be your wife in sickness and in health, in joy and in sorrow, for better or for worse? I do, Michael said, his voice strong and clear. Do you, Nia Johnson, take Michael Hudson to be your husband in sickness and in health, in joy and in sorrow, for better or for worse? I do, Nia replied, her eyes shining with happiness. When they kissed, the small congregation erupted in cheers. Tommy threw flower petals instead of rice, and everyone laughed when he announced that he was hungry and wanted cake. The reception was held in Michael's apartment, which had been transformed with flowers and lights. The balcony doors were open, and Miami's skyline provided the backdrop for their celebration. During the toasts, James spoke about watching his friend rediscover his purpose and passion. Dr. Martinez talked about the power of refusing to give up on people, even when they want to give up on themselves. Tommy gave a speech about how Uncle Michael had the coolest wheelchair and made the best pancakes. But the real surprise came when Nia stood to make her own toast. A year ago I thought I knew what my life looked like. I was focused on surviving, on getting through each day, on solving the immediate problems in front of me. She looked at Michael with love. Michael taught me that life can be about more than just surviving. It can be about thriving, about building something beautiful together, about using our challenges to help other people. She paused, smiling mysteriously. Which is why I'm excited to tell you all that the Hudson Foundation for Pediatric Cardiac Care has already received our first grant approval. We'll be able to help 12 families in our first year. The room erupted in applause, but Nia wasn't finished. And I'm also excited to tell you that Michael and I have some other news to share. She looked at her new husband, who was clearly surprised by this addition to her speech. We're going to have a baby. The room went silent for a moment, then exploded in cheers and congratulations. Michael stared at Nia in shock, then joy, then overwhelming happiness. "When?" he asked, reaching for her hands. "About 7 months from now." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." She leaned down to kiss him. "Are you happy?" "I'm terrified and thrilled and amazed and grateful," Michael said. "So yes, I'm happy." Later that night, after the guest had gone home and Tommy had fallen asleep on the couch, Michael and Nia sat on their balcony as husband and wife. "Were you planning to tell me about the baby before you announced it to everyone?" Michael asked, amused. "I found out this morning. I was going to tell you privately, but then I got caught up in the moment." "I'm glad you told everyone. It makes it feel more real." Nia leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "Are you really happy about the baby?" "I'm amazed that I get to have this life. You, Tommy, a baby, the foundation work that matters. A year ago, I thought my story was over. It was just beginning." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights sparkle below them. Michael thought about the journey that had brought them here, from that first morning when Nia refused to leave his apartment to this moment when they were building a family together. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing something in me that I couldn't see myself. For teaching me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Thank you for letting me help. For trusting me enough to get better. For showing me that love can be both generous and equal." "What do you think happens next?" "Everything," Nia said, placing his hand on her still flat stomach. "Everything wonderful and challenging and unexpected and perfect." Michael felt the baby move under his hand, just the faintest flutter of life beginning. His child would grow up knowing that different didn't mean less than, that challenges could become strengths, that love was about supporting each other through whatever life brought. As they sat together under the Miami stars, Michael realized that his accident hadn't been the end of his story after all. It had been the beginning of a completely different and infinitely better chapter. One filled with love, purpose, and the knowledge that the best things in life weren't the ones you could buy, but the ones you built together with people who refused to let you give up on yourself. "I love you, Mrs. Hudson." "I love you too, Mr. Hudson." And in that moment, sitting on their balcony with their sleeping nephew inside and their unborn child growing between them, they both knew that their story was just beginning.